Hey, we've got a problem here.
So, what's the plan?
What's your plan?
What are your plans?
What's the plan?
What's the plan?
What's your plan?
What's your plan of action?
Plan.
What's the plan?
So, what is the plan?
Wait, I have a plan.
I have a plan.
I have a plan.
That's the plan.
I have a plan here.
This plan's gonna work. Master Plan, Phase 1, Side A.
I love everything about your plan.
भाई इससे कहते हैं planning.
What's it say?
Well, it says, I love it when a plan comes together.
Welcome to the Young Person's Plan for the Planet broadcast from the Brian Schmidt studio at Questacon. And good to have you here in one piece.
Yeah,
Holly?
no. Thank you very much, Ian.
You've
Good to
been
be here.
bouncing around with your frisbees and you're about to go to the international competition over in Germany.
Yeah, so we've got World Championships in Germany mid next month.
Okay.
So I'll be heading over there early July.
So one of the things about the Young Person's Plan for the Planet program, and I was just saying this to our special guests today, who are Holly and Floney.
Emily.
Sorry?
Emily.
Emily. Emily. It's too early in the morning for me. To Emily and Floney, that part of the Plan for the Planet program is about having fun too. So
Absolutely.
getting out and doing the things that you really enjoy, as well as building a plan to actually address all the challenges we've got on the planet. So we reckon that's about having fun too.
I agree.
So today we've got a pretty good program, and we've got some exciting news.
We do.
A number of our different groups have won awards over the last month, and we'd like to tell you a little bit about those. But before we start that, we want to acknowledge our country and our Indigenous heritage, and acknowledge our traditional owners and custodians of the country, Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander peoples, the first innovators and carers of this land, which is what sustainability and the Sustainable Development Goals are all about. And we especially recognise the elders of tomorrow, which is actually all of us here. They are the future of the earth. So let us all join together and respect and acknowledge all First Nations so that we can together move forward and care for the planet. So it's quite interesting. The whole concept of care for country translates very easily into care for planet, which is really what the Sustainable Development Goals are about. So we've changed our first slide a little bit, as you might notice, to acknowledgement to country and care for planet. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. The first thing on our agenda is going to be telling everybody about YPP News, I've called it today.
Love it.
So that's about our Mauritius Award,
Yep.
award in Victoria, and also the things that have happened in Kenya since we had Paul here. So we've got some exciting news about that.
We do.
Then we've got a short video about the team in Mauritius and the Australian team over there in action. Then we're going to talk about the build phase. And this is that phase where we take all of that research and translate it into the strategic planning component. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about that. Then we've got our special guests, Emily and Floney, who are YPP alumni and also studying now at ANU. So we're going to talk to them a little bit about how the Young Person's Plan for the Planet program influenced them, how they've transitioned into university. So all of our other guest speakers have been sort of well and truly down their careers, and we've got the opportunity today to talk to Emily and Floney about that transition period, how you sort of go from university, from school to university into your career. And you're going through that at the moment as well.
I am midway through my degree at the moment, so yeah.
Exciting.
Absolutely.
So we might ask you a few questions as well.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So first of all, whoa, sorry, I think there's a problem with my microphone.
Just having a few technical difficulties here. Will only be a couple of minutes.
Actually, you know what? What we should do, Holly, is have a look at that video on Mauritius first, and then we can fix up the technical difficulties and then be set to go.
Sounds like a
In
plan.
a bid to sensitize young people on sustainable development, the Plan for the Planet program was launched in Mauritius after Australia. The project has received the support of several stakeholders, including the Rajiv Gandhi Science Centre, the Australian High Commission and the MCB, amongst others.
The extracurricular project Plan for the Planet at first brought together students from 10 colleges of the island. Throughout the year, they worked on initiatives related to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. Joining forces with their Australian peers who travelled to Mauritius this week, these students mapped out an action plan. Sustainable programs had already started at school, such as reduce, reuse and recycle. They spotted a lot of differences in problems in Mauritius and Australia, but despite this fact, they came up with ideas. Plan for the Planet targets a boost in the teaching of science and technology subjects in Mauritius. Youth who are the future leaders need to acquire all these competencies to fashion solutions to all planet issues. The recommendations engaging the fight against poverty, climate change, the environment or education for all will be considered by authorities. Youth are already aware of goals set for 2030 and they are also trying to devise means to reach these goals. Other speakers, including High Commissioner Jenny Dee, emphasized the Mauritius-Australia partnership in education, research and innovation.
I think our technical issues are sorted out now. And isn't that a fantastic video? That is actually the news broadcast from Mauritius on the Young Mauritians Plan for the Planet. And the team there have now gone on and won a national award. But this wasn't just an award for their work in isolation. It was a competition against 50 other organisations in Mauritius. They won, they were the grand prize winner, and now some of the team from Rajiv Gandhi Science Centre are heading off to Japan to take part in the international competition. So our news today is congratulations to everybody in Mauritius on a fantastic job, and your appropriately won and well-deserved prize. And we've got another award as well.
Do we?
We do. If we look at our slide here, we want to acknowledge a surprise winner in Victoria. Leonie Raphael, I think is her correct pronunciation, won the Bard Memorial Community Service Award in Victoria. So I'm going to read out what was said about Rian. Rian is a highly engaged young person in our local community thanks to her faith, volunteer work and social justice efforts. Her leadership achievements to date are remarkable. She also aims to meet the needs of others through volunteering with Christmas on the Streets and actively working towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal of Zero Hunger. Rian plans to use the funds at a grass level to try and work with local grocery stores, bakeries and produce producers to reduce food wastage that could be going to a better place. Part of this also includes teaching people how to prepare healthy, quick and affordable food. So congratulations to Rian as well. So what we wanted to do today is say, look, feel free and do put your work out there because it's fantastic work and it's starting to be recognised more and more. So if you're involved in a specific project, make sure that everybody knows about it because that's good for your project, but it's also good for acknowledgement in the community of the work you're doing. So congratulations to Mauritius and to Rian and to all of you because you're all doing a fantastic job. We want to make sure we get more acknowledgement of that as we go on. So if you've won awards, let us know about that because we can advertise that and promote that on our broadcast.
In many ways, advertising and sharing achievements and opportunities people are developing, it's a great catalyst for and inspiration for other people to then go on and get involved in these initiatives.
Look, absolutely, and that's what the Sustainable Development Goals are about. We talk a lot about interconnectivity, so it's a really good point, Holly. We talk about the interconnectivities, and there's other interconnectivities which, as you've mentioned, is inspiration from each other. So the work that you're all doing with your building the plan, and you're now starting to undertake with your projects, I know I've found that inspiring, and the more we can promote that in the community, we're promoting two things. So you can see in Rian's promotion material that wasn't put out by her, it was put out by their regional council, that in fact they're promoting the Sustainable Development Goals. So one of the things in Mauritius we found after the students and the teams over there, and we have to acknowledge also the Charles Talfa Institute who work with Ravi Gandhi Centre, what we found is when I went back there for the conference in November, feels like a while ago now, everybody came up to me and said, everybody's talking about the Sustainable Development Goals. And I said, how long's that been for? And that was from the point that the students had completed their work. Our Mauritius Commercial Bank had in fact put out 1,000 copies of that to all community groups, all of the MPs, and that work then promoted the Sustainable Development Goals. And as you said, everybody gets inspired by that and then thinks, what can I do?
You never know who's watching and who's listening.
That's right.
So we're just having another technical changeover here.
Right, I'm back. So, good point, Holly. It's really important that everybody gets involved and actually promotes their work, so that in their your promotion of the work, and you can see the promotion that we had on the national television. Now everybody in Mauritius knows about the, the SDGs, that all of the school students are involved, and that they're doing work to actually make Mauritius more sustainable, but also globally to actually make the world a better place. So, if you're winning prizes, firstly, make sure you're in there to win them, but secondly, if you're winning them, let us know. And as part of our YPP news, we'll let everybody know.
Sounds good.
So, the other thing we're going to talk about just up front is the build part. So that's the next part. This is that strategic planning. So let me see, not last time, the time before, we talked about the research part, examining the actual program and looking at researching your particular area. This time we're going to talk about how you take that and turn that into the strategic plan. So let's just spend a few minutes on this, because we've got quite a few new schools, Holly, who are coming on board, both in Australia, in Singapore, in India, So we thought we'd just spend a little bit of time on this. Now, you'll see two forms here. The first one up the top is the discovery form, all of which you'll find on the website. And on this form, what you need to do is identify 10 things that are already happening in your area, 10 things that need to happen, and then prioritise those. And you'll see the columns over on the right-hand side in terms of urgency importance. So that's not very hard.
Bit of market research,
It's all about research. And we're going to talk to Emily and Thloni about how that research skill is starting to help them at university. Now, once you've done that, add up all of those scores, and this is what we went over in the discovery phase last time, and pick the top 4 scores. And that's based on a very simple principle called the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, which means that if you tackle the top 4 issues, often, or the top 20% of the issues, the most important, then often you'll actually address 80% of all of the issues. And it's a rule that was sort of developed by an Italian, Mr. Pareto, and it's been found to be applicable in a lot of areas. And we'll talk to Thloni and Emily about how accurate they found that, but so many of the students have come back and said it works really well. So in terms of the whole program, if you're looking at it and thinking, oh, this is a bit overwhelming, the whole process is quite simple. So it's a matter of filling in this first form, which is your discovery form, and then the second form, which is we're going to talk a little bit more about today. So the first part of the build form is you transfer your 4 discovery focus areas onto the build form. You'll see down the very left-hand side what's called focus areas. So that's very simple. You take those focus areas, you put them down the left-hand side. And the next part, yeah, it's really interesting. Often, the students say back to me, this is where it all comes together and it gets very exciting. So once you've set those 4 focus areas, you then start to set objectives, strategies, actions, measures, and interconnectivities. Now that might sound really complicated, but it's not when you start to actually think about it. So that I know when we had our team up in Darwin, this is an example I use quite a bit, they were saying one of the issues was homelessness up there. So they were looking at what they could actually do to address that. So the first issue was objectives. What sort of objective do you set for, say, a problem with homelessness? So we talked it through, and I'll just talk you through how we went from the issue right through to the interconnectivities. So the first part was what objective? So I said, well, what is the level of homelessness in in Darwin? And the students were really aware of that. They said, it's 1 in 15. 1 in 15 people are homeless in Darwin. So I said, well, look, in 5 years' time, where would you like that to be? So they were a pretty realistic group of students. So they said, well, how about we halve it? That sounds reasonable. So we're not trying to completely solve the problem in 5 years, but we'll halve it. So that means we're going from 1 in 15 to, how good's your mathematics, Holly? It's 1 in 30. It's really easy. So that means that...
Ian, I can't do numbers.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I had to think about it. They told me. The students explained it to me. So it becomes 1 in 30. So that means over the 5-year period, you can measure that. So if it's 1 in 15 now, next year it would be, because it's 5-year period divided by 15, it's pretty easy. So next year it's 1 in 18, 1 in 21, 1 in 24, 1 in 27, 1 in 30. So you not only get measures over the period of 5 years, but you can actually measure how well you're doing. And that's the important part about it, an objective, actually having it as a measurable result. So then you can see how your plan is progressing, and you can work with the different organisations on how to progress that. So that's okay for the objectives, but how are you going to achieve that? So we then talked about some of the issues that the students had encountered on homelessness. And what they said is, well, look, we noticed there was a real education issue, and there was a confidence issue. So people sort of had lower education, didn't have access to education. That was meaning they were becoming homeless. They lacked self-confidence. And so we then started to look at what sort of facilities were there, not only to address the issue of helping people get off the streets and have a proper place to sleep overnight and proper food, which affects it as well, and which are the obvious ones, but the issue of how those students could then, or those people on the streets, could then get access to educational services. So we started to look at what services were available and how they could be linked to the centres that people were going to for homelessness. And then we looked at psychological things and psychological support services that could help with the whole issue of confidence. So what it meant was we're able to identify a couple of key strategies. One was obviously making sure that there were facilities to help people not to have to sleep on the streets. So, you know, there are the basics available in terms of beds and food, but also to look at some of the other related factors, which were getting educational support services and psychological support services for those people so they could start to break that cycle. So they became the three strategies.
I do sort of wonder, to what extent, do you know, have students been able to break things down a bit further and looking at different demographics? So say you could be looking at experiences of women, youth, compared to men, compared to people that are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, people of different faiths, different backgrounds.
Exactly. So the beauty of the build plan is what you have is you slowly break down the focus area into your objectives, then your strategies. So there were 3 high-level strategies, making sure there were facilities available. But as you said, you can then break it down into different groups in the community, young people, women, and there's different levels of support at all of those areas, and that then translates into your actions, which is the next column. So you can take those strategies on making sure there's housing, and you can translate that into housing for women who are perhaps going through issues in domestic violence. There are issues for young people who mightn't be getting the support or might have had to move out of home. And you can get through each of the demographics and have an actual action to address that. So that's where the strategic planning framework becomes really useful. You can go from your focus area to your objective to your strategies, which are those 3 areas, and then you break those down into the specific action areas. And then you come to your measures, which is the next column, and we've already answered half of that because we set strategies that were really measurable. So we just put in the yearly increments there. And then when we get to the interconnectivities with other SDGs, you can see how that's already rolled into quality education. It's rolled into the whole issue of health and mental health services, so that you start to see, as you just work through each of those issues, how that can translate into a very simple 1-page, or some of our plans rolled into 2 pages, that actually captures the priority areas, what your objectives are, what your strategies are, how you're going to action that for each of those community groups, good point, and then how you can measure that, and finally the other SDGs that rolls into. So this page becomes really important, and I just wanted to spend a few moments on that, because once you've done that, 90% of the plan's done. So if we roll on to the next slide, we just combine those 17 build forms for each SDG, and they become the national, the state, the regional young person's plan for the planet. So that's what our Mauritius team's done. Our Australian teams have now done that nationally. They're completing the state plans, and some of our teams are now starting to look at that at our local government area. However, that's the theory. I thought what we could do, Holly, is have a chat to Floney and Emily about what it's really like to do that, and a little bit about how they're going with their course as well.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Let's go and do it.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you both for joining us. Sorry about the delay. We had a few little technical issues up there. Let's start with the build, because that must have been a real challenge for you guys when you were thrown into all of this. You had to do all your research, and then you had to turn it into a strategic plan. Had you ever seen a strategic plan before?
Never, no.
So, the reason I'm asking you that is because my guess is most of our other students have never seen a strategic plan before. So the good news is strategic plans are right out there. Every organisation that exists probably has some sort of strategic plan. If they don't, they won't be around for very long. The great news is once you learn how to do this, you know how to do it. So I'm really interested from both of your perspectives on how you found that and how you address that. We might start with you, Emily, first.
So I'd say for me, at the start, it's definitely really daunting trying to, you've already done all this research, you're kind of a bit tired, you've picked your, 4 main areas, and then it's like, well, how am I supposed to come up with a measurable plan? I know through school we never really looked at, making these kind of plans, but now that I have, it's definitely something that I, value and take into university. It's definitely trying to understand those main concepts and really break them down. So I know I'm kind of a visual learner, so I was working on poverty, so breaking those down once I had my 4 key areas, one of them was emergency care. And then breaking that down again, who should that go to? What kind of services do we need? And then how do we measure these? Is it realistic? I think that's another thing where you can be very optimistic, which is really important, but at the end of the day, how realistic is it going to be getting these services into these areas? It's
a really important point, actually, Emily, because any plan is only as good as you can implement it. And if it's a goal that's off in the stratosphere, well, that's not going to be much good to anybody, because everybody will say, oh, we'll never get that, and I'll forget about it. So it's a really good point, making sure that you're breaking it down. It's picking up on Holly's point as well, because making it realistic is a useful way of tackling that, is to break it down into different groups as well.
And I mean, so SDG 1, no poverty, is very broad. So how did you find breaking it down and trying to prioritise different aspects?
So when I did that, I really looked at, well, we have this huge issue of poverty. How are we going to fix it? What are the scales of poverty? Do we fix it straight away? Do we have long-term solutions? So trying to come up with 4 areas where, having emergency services, that'll help having, when a crisis happens, having that emergency care, but also then looking into, homelessness facilities to help trying to alleviate poverty, throughout generations. So it's really important to have not only the balance of different scales of solutions and trying to help, how do we implement that at the local government, federal government, those kind of issues,
So Floney, how did you find it? Because again, as you said, you'd never seen something like this before.
But it was, so I can say it was much the same, how it was a bit daunting at first, but I found that more than, looking at it as an overall, at the end goal, as in no poverty, or for my SDG it was food and water, so food and water for everyone, it was easier to just look at it in short-term steps. So infrastructures that you could set up now, that you could do now, that could establish a foundation could potentially in the future result in a solution that worked for everyone. And so parts of that was maybe like food drives and like solutions where communities could get easy access to food and water, where previously they don't have a river, they don't have a dam, they don't have infrastructure in place where they could easily get access to that water. So I found that was fascinating, and that was probably what made it easy, what made that idea of it being daunting less so.
Well, with Rian, who won the award, I heard you saying that one of the initiatives they'd done was with the collecting food waste and scraps, and that's like such a simple idea.
Exactly, and our Shenton team had a similar concept, and they've basically set up a whole program where they collect food waste. Well, not food waste, but food that
we
is,
shouldn't call it food waste.
That's right. That's right. Food that's available, that's not going to be used, and making that available to people who use. And as you said, a very simple concept, very practical, very measurable, and very realistic, but makes a lot of difference. So good point, and well done to our Shenton team and to Rian as well. So that's really interesting. So you started out, it felt daunting. By the time you got to the end of it, what did you feel about that build process? Had it been helpful in pulling your ideas together?
Yeah, I think once I'd finally finished, it was a really proud moment. Like, it took a long time in research, but when you look at it at the end, like, you can't help but smile. Like, that's a lot of effort that you've put in, and it's actually a realistic, measurable, like, document that can be put in, like, can be implemented. So yeah, and it's definitely something that I still look back on now. I still look at it, and take away not only the final product, but all the steps that happened along the way. And really getting that like business mindset has really helped me decide like what I want to do at uni, and just really keep an open mind to, sustainability is a big issue. There's not just one pathway that's going to help to solve the problem. You have to be open to looking into business and economics and sociology, and that's really been really valuable for me. Yeah.
So I'm going to come across to you, Flannery, and pick up on your point, so that it's really helped you transition and think about what you wanted to do, and now you're doing it with your university courses. How did that help you transition and decide what you wanted to do moving forward? Because you're now at ANU and you've got an exam on Saturday. It's all hitting home. Really interested, because many of our students will be thinking about what they're going to do going forward.
So particularly with that build aspect, it was really helpful in narrowing your scope, so you weren't just looking at it as a big issue and you knew exactly where it was that you wanted to address, and like makes it very specific. So with that, for example, where it was all these problems and you narrowed it down to the 4 main ones. So, and that was, I think those skills are transferable not just across whether it's study or research, but across life. So it really helps you narrow it down. What is it that you want to do? So I found that I was interested in a broad range of issues, and I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. But being involved in organizations like YPP and everything, it really helped me develop my skills, and it gave me a taste of what else is out there, more than your traditional aspects of, medicine, engineering, those kinds of career choices. And I found that was really interesting. And I knew that I wanted to do something related to international relations, but I didn't know exactly where I wanted to go. So, and then of course, this program was based off from ANU, and I'm just going to put a shameless plug in how ANU is one of the best universities in Australia.
Brian Schmidt will appreciate that, absolutely.
And so I thought, well, this is a wonderful university, and if there's opportunities, if there's organizations like Plan for the Planet that's going to continue to be in this university, this is the perfect option for me to study, and it's always going to give me opportunities and chances in life that I wouldn't get anywhere else. And I thought, well, I can do my study, international relations, I can do politics, economics, philosophy, and I can still be working on things I'm passionate about, things that I'm interested about, things which I believe can actually change the world. And that's what really made me want to transition to university in ANU.
Ignited the spark.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Truly.
Ignited the spark.
Ignited the spark, yeah, no, that's interesting. Emily, I know that you were sort of bouncing around what you were going to do future career, and this helped you in some of that transition. I'm really interested in that.
So right now I'm studying a Bachelor of Environment and Sustainability, and that was really, it's a big name, but you can honestly take this degree anywhere you want to go. And I have absolutely loved it. And coming out of high school, I've never really had one specific job that I want to do. And I feel like my personal opinion is that you shouldn't limit yourself to one job. You know, you're going to have way more than one job in your life. You should follow your passions, and you should be like taking part in all of these different programs and learning all these different skills that you can then take into the workplace and all of these different areas. So this degree is like a compilation of not only just science but also arts and sociology and all these amazing topics that I can just take anywhere I want. And I think the benefits of this program has really helped me narrow down as like I want to work in this area of how does the science and our knowledge, how is that going to impact the communities and the way that we're going to work into the future.
That's really interesting. So both of you have talked about using the program and the skills you learn to really help you focus on what you wanted to do, both with the actual program, with building the plan, but also as you move forward into your studies. So the last question, this is for everybody, how are you enjoying it? How's university? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, loving it.
Yeah?
Loving it.
It's quite a different experience to high school. A lot of freedom, but it also becomes very it's very personally driven about what you want to do. And you can,
Do you find that because you were pretty much personally driven with the program, that's helped at all?
Yeah, the independent aspect of it was like Plan for the Planet definitely gave you a taste for it, gave you an experience, maybe one could say like an introduction to it, maybe, so that you knew like how to utilize your spare time, because Plan for the Planet was always beyond school time. It wasn't just within your it was extracurricular, and that was always refreshing, that I could put out like the potential for how you could use your time in different ways, and how it wasn't always about schoolwork, and it could become something more than work. It could be something you're actually interested in, so it didn't seem like work anymore. And at university I find that no matter what subject you do, sometimes it's not about honor, it becomes more than just actually doing your schoolwork or university work. It becomes pursuing something, reading up about something you're passionate about.
It's interesting. And how are you finding it as well, Holly? Because we haven't really talked to you about your course and your study. You enjoying your university life?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I'm doing law and international security studies. So
And Frisbee.
And Frisbee.
Okay.
Which is definitely keeping me busy. But yeah, and I mean, security is very similar in some ways to international relations. Just a bit more of a narrower sort of focus, but I've really enjoyed the law sort of side of my studies. I'm definitely taking a bit longer than most. I'm technically starting 5th year from July. Probably still got a few years to go, but no, I'm enjoying it. It's been a great experience.
It's interesting because it was the same for me when I did both of my my degrees. I really loved it, and the same with the current work I'm doing. But you've mentioned two things that I think are really interesting. One is the chance to explore a whole lot of different skills and disciplines, and you get that at university. But the other one was passion. Pursuing something that you're passionate about, and it sounds to me that all three of you have actually done that. Emily?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think I've always had a love for this kind of area, and now I'm getting to work with it every single day, and that's just an amazing feeling. Like getting ready to study, but it's more than study. It's like what I want to do.
No, it feels like a chore.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't always get to pick what you wanted to do with school. Like there was always, subjects you had to do. And I guess that is, in some ways similar with university, but at least you're picking courses that it's under the umbrella of the degree that you've chosen. So.
And you also have the freedom to just combine things that people wouldn't normally think of combining. So if you're interested, like I know people who study like environment and also security, like just these amazing combinations that if you're interested in it, you can do it. You have the ability.
a really interesting point on that is the interconnectivities,
Yeah.
which you would have learned about in,
Yeah.
in Plan for the Planet. Do you find that? There's overlaps, interconnectivities that perhaps you wouldn't have anticipated as you start to put subjects together?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, as I say, I mean, international relations, international security, there's, you know, similarities here and there. I should say, you know, my main interest of security is more from a human security sort of perspective, which is where this sort of relates. You know, the individual sort of issues when it comes to water security, food security, health, and all that, and, you know, migration of people and all that sort of thing. And I mean, you can apply a lot of those sort of aspects to, say, to, I would imagine, to say like environmental science and
Absolutely.
the relations with, say, environmental science and food security.
Yeah, and I guess studying all of the SDGs, as you were saying, Floney, sort of has allowed you to get a sense that there's a lot involved in achieving sustainability. It's not just about the water and about the land, it's actually a whole range of things. Was that your experience?
Yeah. So, I mean, for example, like even with what I'm studying, international relations, the theories, like the problem of collective action and dispersing public good, which is what all of this is, be it food, water, poverty, equality, it's all the problems of society and how we interact with each other to divide up these public goods, to divide and to work together, and the idea of working together and how we can achieve that. And it's described as the collective action problem, and it all applies. It's completely interconnected. So it like the international relations theory can explain your domestic problems and how organizations work together or how they don't work together. And that's just fascinating. It's incredible how you can apply it to every situation, be it amongst your friends or between states, like huge global players. Yeah.
Look, that's been really useful to talk to you today about that, because as we said, sort of when we describe the actual, you know, process, the slides, etc., it all feels very, you know, a little bit daunting, and also a bit theoretical. But when, you know, we can understand a lot more about what it means in reality, how you approached it, but also how you're able to take that moving forward in your careers, that's incredibly helpful for all of our students. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We'll have you back.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So thanks very much. We might, Holly, need to close up now because I think we're running pretty close to time. But look, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time for the next instalment.
Sounds good.
Also for you, Holly, we've got to hear about your Frisbee competition in Germany. I think what we'll do is jump straight into our next steps so that we can sort of make sure we finish on time. But thanks again, guys, for sharing your experience and your stage of the journey.
And expertise.
Great, thank you. Fantastic. Well, look, I think we're pretty much close to our end of our slides today and our presentation. So let's just recap. We'll go back through our key stages in building the plan so we've just got it all nice and clear in everybody's mind. The first stage is that discovery phase, making sure that everybody does the research to find out and explore and discover about the SDG they're looking at. Second stage is that build, turning it into a strategic plan, and the lessons you learn in that are how to do a strategic plan, which not too many 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds are aware of, but that's a fantastic skill, as you saw from Leonie and Emily, that you can take through into whatever you're doing as you move forward. And then finally, you bring that all together. You combine that into your plan, well, actually, it's not the final bit, because then we talked about projects and all
did,
the fantastic projects that come out of that. But the beauty is they all link back to the plan and to the SDGs, and that's our area of focus this year. That's where Rihanna has won her award. That's where our Shenton team are developing their projects. And I know there's a lot of schools in Mauritius, Australia, who are now focusing on turning their plans into action. So that's it for today. Key things to remember, to make sure that everybody is registered on the Plan for the Planet website. Make sure you send through your lists of emails and we'll get you registered. That will mean you can access the website, so it's totally secure, which is something that we have focused on all the way through. The second part is get kick-started on your planning and projects. And finally, tune in to Questacon next month, always the first Thursday of the month, and we'll be talking about how to now take your build plans, build forms, and combine those into the national plans. So thanks for joining us today. We really look forward to seeing you next time. And remember, this is all about enjoyment, about passion, and about learning. So enjoy your next month. Have fun. Anything else we need to say?
See you soon.
And see you soon. But hold it, you're not going to be here next time, are you?
I'm not, no.
You're off pursuing one of your passions.
I am, yes. I'll be off to Germany, but I will be back soon after that.
And you'll be in those international Frisbee competitions.
Yeah, repping
so
the green and gold.
University and studying isn't all about academics. It's all...
No.
Because you've been doing that through the university, haven't you?
I did. Started a couple of years ago.
Right, so it's all about pursuing all of your passions. So enjoy, have fun with your Plan for the Planet program over the next month, and we will see you then.
Sounds good.
Have fun and good luck for Germany.
Thank you, Ian.
We hope we've got another winner when we get you back here. Thanks very much, everybody.